Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Hearthstone's The Witchwood expansion is rapidly approaching, and in this video I'm going to take a look at one of the released cards, Baku the Mooneater, which is a build-around card for odd-cost decks, and I'm going to take a look at what kind of decks Baku could work in, what does it mean for various classes, and how you might be able to make use of this build-around card. Baku the Mooneater is a 9-mana 7/8 beast, so you don't play this minion for stats, you play it only for its effect. And the effect is an interesting one. Start of the game. If your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. So what does this mean? First of all, the start of the game effect, it's a new keyword, happens at the very beginning of the game, before the mulligan, which means that you don't have to draw Baku in order to gain a use of its effect. It also means that your entire deck has to fulfill this condition, only odd cost cards. So only cards with mana cost of 1, 3, 5 and so on are allowed, whereas if you have cards that cost 0, 2, 4 and so on, Baku's effect will not activate at the start of the game, so you don't really want to put Baku in a deck like that. Effectively then you're cutting half of the card pool away from you. And there better be some reward for doing such a sacrifice, and in this case the reward is upgrade your hero power. And this upgrade your hero power brings back some old classic hero powers. In other words, the Justica True Heart upgraded hero powers. They're returning to standard format with Baku, and this time you don't have to draw and play the card to get use of this, but you get access to them immediately at the start of the game if you have built your deck so that it fulfills Baku's condition. This means that the two cards can be used a little bit in different ways. Baku can be used in very aggressive decks, for example, very tempo-based decks, because the hero power is there right at the start and you can take advantage of that, whereas Justica was typically used in decks that went for very long games, because you first had to find the Justica and then you had to play the Justica, suffering a tempo loss before you gained access to the hero power. There are 9 classes, 9 different hero powers. Each class has to make distinct sacrifices and gains distinct benefits, so it's best to examine Baku class by class. And I'm going to examine them in the order where I think Baku is the strongest. So first up, which class would Baku be the strongest in? And my prediction is Hunter. Hunter looks really nice for Baku. You gain Ballista Shot, which is a new hero power that deals 3 damage to the opponent hero whenever it's used instead of 2 that the regular deals. And if you get that at the start of the game, well, there's only one place that can go, and that place is the face. So you miss out on even cost cards, but Hunter has some 1-drops, and then there's stuff like Kill Command, stuff like Animal Companion on 3, there's stuff like Leroy Jenkins available on 5. Building face hunt based on Baku seems very, very interesting. I'm uncertain whether it will be top tier, but it's certainly something that can be built around the card. My prediction for class that has the second best chance to make use of Baku is Shaman. That might sound a bit weird because Shaman is in such a bad position right now, and perhaps that explains why Shaman is so high on the list. I'm just willing to grasp at straws to find something useful for Shaman. And in this case, that something useful is a hero power that allows you to choose from the 4 basic totems which one you like, and summon duplicates also if you like. How about if you just summon a taunt totem after taunt totem after taunt totem versus aggressive decks? Or maybe you want a spell power totem into spell power totem into spell power totem. There are some really nice things you can do even with the basic totems, and very often in Shaman you're rolling that totem and you're hoping, okay, I have 25% now to get the one that I really need. With Baku you can always get what you really need. There are also multiple directions a Baku Shaman could go. It could go the Snowflake Giant Sapphire Spellstone route, get some Overload cards, have access to Lightning Storm, have Volcano, make some giants, copy them giants with the Spellstone. Some pretty powerful stuff potentially. The downside of going the Snowflake Giant Sapphire Spellstone route is that you do lose access to Ancestral Spirit, which is the real wombo combo of making those giants and giving them the death rattle that they come back, so you don't have access to that one. It might be a problem if control decks that have very good board clear tools are prevalent. Other than that, you can also take the Shaman to the Evolve route. You still have Trial Death Seer, you still have Unstable Evolution. All those tools are available to you. Or you might take it more into a token direction because Bloodlust is still there for you. So these key cards that you can build around, depending on what other new cards will be released, these are still there, and Shaman can take Baku in multiple directions, all of which look really interesting. The third class that I think Baku could work in is Warrior. Warrior is getting back Tank Up. Well, what can you say about Tank Up? Tank Up is iconic. Back when Just Take a True Heart was in standard format, Tank Up was the hero power to go to. Those warrior mirrors, they could go on and on. How long could they go? Just gain so much armor with that. And there are a couple of ways you can use that hero power. One of them is to build a Taunt Warrior, because Firebloom's Heart is an odd cost card, Stonehill Defender is an odd cost card, Daihorn Hatchling is an odd cost card. Those are some pretty decent picks. But whether the Ragnar's hero power is good enough in the late game depends on the meta game, so I'm not quite sure if that's going to be very good, but it's definitely something you can try. You don't get any benefit from Baku once you switch to the Ragnar's hero power, but the Tank Up hero power is going to help you get to that point. The other option is to simply build some kind of control warrior, because you have the steady armor gain from Tank Up, and steady armor gain means that you're able to use something like Reckless Flurry much more effectively than the current warrior archetypes. Because the current warrior archetypes, they gain armor in bursts. You may have stuff like Bring It On or Dry Whisker Armorer. You gain a big chunk of armor, and then if you play Reckless Flurry, you lose all of that, and how are you going to get more? You don't have the armor card anymore. But with Baku giving you this hero power that gives you steady armor gain, cards like Reckless Flurry become much more attractive to use because you can actually recover and gain armor again. As a downside, you lose access, for example, those aforementioned armor gain cards. So can steady armor gain be better than those really big bursts of armor? That's something we don't know yet. The fourth class to utilize Baku in is Paladin. The Silverhand hero power summoned 2/1/1 recruits. Just Take a True Heart was played a lot in Paladin back in the day, because it turns out when you can get those 2/1/1s on the board every single turn, that's a lot of stuff for the opponent to clear. You lose access to some of the Silverhand recruit synergy cards, such as Lightfuse, Stegodon, but there's still Wine Cleaver, there's still Level Up. And if you want to go into some kind of more aggressive direction, you can use Southsea Deckhand, you can use Leroy Jenkins, you can use those 1/1s as means to give your aggro deck even more punch. An odd cost Silverhand Paladin is possible, and aggro Paladin is possible. This looks pretty interesting as well. The next class for Baku is Priest. With Baku, Priest gains access to heal, 2 mana, restore 4 health. And that's pretty powerful. It can really keep some big minions alive. It can really help you gain control of the board if you're playing a board-centric deck. But how do you go about that? Priest currently has some tools available to it, but it is missing out on some others, so all the pieces are just lying around. It's hard to put a coherent whole out of them. But some ideas. There's Awaken the Makers. You could build a Death Rattle Priest with a hero power that's very good at healing minions. There's Lyra the Sunshard, and there's Dragon Soul, so you can build some kind of a Miracle Priest. Summon some 5/5 dragons, keep them alive and healthy with your hero power. Priest is also getting a odd cost synergy card in the new set. Not all classes get one, but Priest does, which is the Glitter Moth. A 5 mana 4/4 beast with a battle cry. If your deck has only odd cost cards, double the health of your other minions. This can help you build even bigger boards, so if you're playing some kind of a board-centric mid-range Priest, this can really help make your minions nigh unkillable. There are also some combo opportunities with Inner Fire or Void Ripper, which are also odd cost cards, so perhaps you can build some kind of priest deck around odd cost that keeps high health minions alive, gets multiple of them on the board, then flips that health or something like that into attack and goes face. There's no Divine Spirit in a Baku deck, of course, so you can't build that one gigantic minion. You would have to have a wider strategy in this case, so I'm not sure how good that is exactly. The next class for Baku is Mage. Mage gets access to Fire Blast rank 2. Hero part deals 2 damage. So you're looking at something fairly aggressive maybe. And as it happens, a lot of secret synergy cards are rotating out, so these sort of slightly more aggressive mage builds, there's some room for more competition. Perhaps, for example, building around elementals. Dark Reaper, Servant of Kalimus, Blaze Caller. There could be something there. It's also possible to build just big spell mage with this, because you still have Frostleaf Chain, you still have Flame Strike, Dragon's Fury. But you do lose access to some stuff like Meteor, so I'm not sure if you have all that much removal that you need. Mage is another class that's also getting a new odd cost synergy card in the new set, and the Mage's card is Black Cat. 3 mana 3/3 with spell damage +1. Repel Cry if your deck has only odd cost cards, draw a card. Basically this is a new Azure Drake, so it's a very powerful card for sure. The problem is that you lose access to things like Frostbolt and Fireball, so building a deck with direct burn is not going to be that simple. But Black Cat itself is very strong. There are a couple of ways you can go also with Mage, with either big spells or with something a little bit more aggressive or mid-rangey. The next class for Baku is Rogue. Rogue gains access to poison daggers, so for 2 mana you equip a 2/2 weapon instead of a 1/2 weapon. And the 2/2 weapon is much more intimidating. It can actually clear a lot of early game minions, or it can even go face. So this type of rogue deck, it probably would not be any kind of miracle build. You lose Gadgets and Auctioneer, you lose Falderized Strider, you lose everything Miracle is all about. But it could be a tempo build, maybe even around elementals, because you could play Firefly, Dark Reaper, Blaze Caller again. Or it could be aggro. You can play Southsea deck, and you can play Leroy, you can play Cold Blood, and you can have a 2/2 dagger. So there are some interesting things that you can do with Rogue with Baku as well. The next class for Baku is Druid. Druid gains access to Die Shapeshift. Hero power that gains 2 armor and +2 attack. So that's a very powerful hero power. It's like Malfurion the Pestilent. You don't choose attack or armor, but you gain quite a good amount of both. This can be used to control the board, so you could use this to ensure your survival to the late game. But as a downside, you lose a lot of those late game cards. You lose even Ultimate Infestation, you lose Spreading Plague. So it's pretty difficult to build a late game druid just based on this hero power. But what about if you build something a little bit more aggressive? You still have access to Living Mana, Savage Roar, Crypt Lord. There are some powerful tools available to you, and that hero power to help those get through. Druid is also another class that gets an odd cost synergy card, in this case the Gloom Stag. It's a 5 mana 2/6 taunt, and it has Battle Cry if your deck has only odd cost cards, gain +2/+2. So in that case it's a 5 mana 4/8 taunt. Quite a powerful mid-range beast. Maybe there is something in this aggressive mid-range style that Gloom Stag can also help you build. I'm a little skeptical whether it could help something like a Hadronox build though, because Hadronox would summon a Gloom Stag as a 2/6 taunt. Hadronox doesn't trigger the battle cries, so probably not something you want to resurrect, but rather something you want to use for your advantage immediately. Finally, there's Warlock. Baku gives Warlock the upgraded hero power Soul Tap. Hero power, draw a card, no health taken. That's rather lackluster now, isn't it? Why would a Warlock want a hero power that doesn't damage itself? That doesn't help you clear the opponent's minions, that doesn't protect your own minions, that doesn't deal damage to face, and you sacrifice half the card pool. including all of your removal, conveniently. Twisting the Scan, Siphon Soul, Spellstone, Defile. So you would have to build an aggressive deck, but aggressive decks don't really care about the health total that much. So I really can't come up with a single archetype that Warlock would like to play with Baku. Yeah, I guess this one you have to call miss. Be that as it may, Baku does open up very interesting build-around possibilities for Hearthstone. And I'm really looking forward to the Witchwood expansion and the arrival of the odd cost decks. I've also written about Baku in more detail on Hearthstone top decks. There's a link down below in the description. So if you want to read about it even more, then head over to that site and have a look. What about you? What kind of Baku decks are you expecting to build or hope to be able to build? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.